Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this roundtable. In this occasion, we will talk about education. And education, as you know, has several fields. So not only focuses on teachers or anything alike to be a teacher. Our guest speakers will be talking about, through their perspectives, several aspects and considerations that candidates that pursue higher education in the education field might consider. So remember that the function of the chat will be only through our panelists. You can type your questions in here and direct them to Q&A Edith Melendez. These will be answered at the end of the presentation. We have closed captioning for this session. So if you are either watching us on Facebook or through Zoom, remember that you can activate this function. And as I said, today we're going to talk about education. But first, if it is your first time with us, with the Education USA webinars, I will talk about a little bit regarding what is Education USA. My name is Jorge Reyes. I am the Education USA advisor in Oaxaca, Mexico, and I am joined by my peer Ana del Arenal, which is an Education USA advisor in Pachuca, Hidalgo. And the person in charge of the Q&A is my peer Edith Melendez. She is in the advising center in San Luis Potosí. Okay, so can we go to the next one, Edith, please? Yes, thank you very much. So if it is your first time watching us and being and attending a webinar of Education USA, well, Education USA, let me tell you, it is a global network of advising centers from the US State Department. We provide accurate and comprehensive information regarding programs and studies in the United States. Although we do not have agreements directly with universities. Why? Because we provide general information, and our main motto is finding your best fit. Okay, so all our services are for free, and I'm pretty sure that I am not only joined by Education USA advisors from Mexico, but from another places all around the world. Because we are webinars for and our target audience are students, higher education institutions, governments, and NGOs. And as I said, our mission is to provide accurate, comprehensive, and current information regarding programs that universities in the United States might provide for international students. So if you are eager to pursue higher education in the States, we are your best option to help you and to assist you to find these kind of universities that might host the programs that you intended to pursue. Can we go to the next one, please? Yes, and I guess that's all for me. And Annie, the time is yours.
Thank you very much, George. Thank you so much, Irene and Anna. I would like to introduce our guest speakers for today. So I'm going to read a short bio. So Irene Violante was born in Mexico City. Her passion for English started at a very young age, and she loved to listen to pop and rock music in English. Irene holds a BA in English teaching at UNAM, a diploma in teaching for higher education as well from UNAM, and is currently studying a master's degree in English teaching. She has been in ELT since 1987 as a K-1-12 and university teacher, English coordinator, high school principal, teacher trainer, methodology teacher, and course writer. She has worked in the public and private sector as an English professional. Currently, she is an English language program specialist in the U.S. Embassy in Mexico. She is married and has 2 wonderful kids, aged 28 and 15, and 3 cats. In her free time, Irene likes to cook, sing, travel, and go to rock concerts. Welcome, Irene. Wonderful bio. Thank you so much. And then we have Sister Ana Gonzalez, currently serves as the coordinator of international admissions for Albertus Magnus College, a university founded in 1925 by her congregation, the Dominican Sisters of Peace. In her role, Sister Ana works with international students seeking a cross-cultural experience of encounter for the promotion of global awareness and peace while attaining quality education at Albertus Magnus College. Sister Ana is a native of Mexico and holds a bachelor's degree from Loyola University at New Orleans and a master's degree from the University of Texas at El Paso. Ana Gonzalez, thank you so much as well for being with us today. So if we can please stop sharing the screen, thank you very much. We are gonna start with the questions for today's panel. Okay, so first question is, why did you decide to study or work in education? I'm gonna start with Irene. Why did you decide to study English teaching, Irene?
Thank you. Well, as you said when you read my bio, I started to listen to music in English when I was in elementary school. I remember, I mean, this was a long time ago, obviously, and I really liked Bob Dylan, the Carpenters, Helen Reddy, the Beatles, and many more. And I know I said I like rock music, and that came later, okay? But those were my first, musicians that I listened to and I loved in English. So that was the first thing. I love music. And then, as you know, the United States has always been ahead of Mexico in many areas, many fields. So I always found that very interesting and something I wanted to know more about. So traveling became a priority in my life, traveling to the States and Canada, later on to Europe, but the States, of course, was easier. And in secondary school, I started to read books in English. I was a fan of Brave New World from Aldous Huxley, For Your Eyes Only, for example, Ian Fleming. I love Edgar Allan Poe. The Black Cat and the Raven are probably two of my favorite books. And of course, Mark Twain, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn and those. And then I realized that I could actually communicate in English with my relatives who from the US who came to visit Mexico or vice versa. And that's when I thought, this is very useful for many things. So I decided to start teaching informally, giving private lessons and making some money, not a lot, but that money was not the most important thing. Actually, my dad told me I needed to study engineering or something, where I could make more money. And I told him, it's not about money, it's about being happy. So he was right. The profession is not about money, but it's very rewarding in many ways. And that's how I decided to study English and teach English.
Yeah, I've met a lot of people. I have some friends that I think they improve a lot their English skills from, series on TV, listening in English and with, the subtitles in English as well. I think that's very useful, right? And Anna, why did you decide to work at a higher education institution?
So to me, education is opening the keys to opportunities. Money can vanish from one day to another. We have a volatile market. An earthquake, a hurricane can come and take away all your human belongings. However, education can always remain with you. Education is power, and education opens opportunities. So growing up in El Paso, Texas, I really was empowered by mentors, by my teachers who told me, you can do this, you could accomplish wonderful things, stick to it, get your bachelor's degree, get your master's degree. And that opened a new reality to me because my teachers gave me the tools and the inspiration to pursue the impossible. My life, my story is completely different for the good. I am privileged to work in higher education now, navigating with people who have dreams. And it is my hope that by working with them, I could be like those teachers who inspired me. It is my hope that I could help plant seeds for bright and fruitful futures, because it is our youth with their education that are going to make wonderful things. And then most importantly, we need teachers. Our world needs teachers. So teachers to inspire, teachers to educate. Education is powerful.
I think education is everything. You know,
right?
like
Yes.
you would improve everything, every aspect with education, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, it is my turn to ask. Since we have now a little bit of your perspective and your background, I will continue with the second question. How would you describe a strong profile for a candidate for education? What are some extracurricular activities that this candidate should consider? So, Anna, for an administrative position or any other position, not being a teacher, what could be your answer for this?
So in reviewing for admissions, when I look at candidates who are interested in an education degree, I like individuals who, one, are not afraid to speak in public. So having a little background of public speaking, being able to command an audience is something that I look very favorably, because obviously teachers can be very good at a profession, right? You could be the best biology teacher, you could be the best math teacher, a math professional. But if you're not able to convey that information in front of a group of people, it's going to be hard to share your knowledge with others. So public speaking is something that gives me that favorable advantage edge. Of course, if you're going into a field, having the grades in that field of expertise, having a good reference from your professors. These are some of the pointers that I look for when I see candidates.
Okay, great. Irene, what could be your input regarding professors or teachers?
Well, if we think of a person who would like to become an English teacher, an English professor, well, first of all, you need to have a love for languages. In this case, English, of course. But what I found out is that many of my colleagues, teachers, they don't only know English. Some of them speak French or Italian or Portuguese, and I think that's part of the profession, like a very strong love for languages and the different ways language is represented, and I'm talking about, as I mentioned before, music, any artistic representation, but also literature and in cultural representations of the language, in this case English, or many others. So that's the first thing. Also, I think that I remember in the past, students used to ask me, are we going to learn American or British English? Or which one is better, So I think that a good English teacher needs to see English as a universal language or lingua franca, despite of the accent, because when you learn English as a second language, you will always have an accent. And it's not important. It doesn't matter, In the past, people were or tended to be more worried about, oh my God, I have this Mexican accent. It doesn't matter. As long as you can communicate, that's okay. So as a teacher, I need to understand that there's no better English. English is a language, regardless of the accent, it can help you communicate in different areas, whether you use it to study, to pursue higher education, like many of the people that visit Education USA, or to travel, or to get a job, There are many, many options. And really, I don't think people will pay attention to the accent, but to the fact that you can communicate and express yourself. So also, I think if you want to be an English teacher, you need to have a vocation for sharing and teaching others. Being an English teacher is not easy. It's not like I can speak the language so I can teach it. There's a lot behind it. You need to study a lot about techniques, and planning a lesson is tough. I mean, for every hour, that's what I always say. For every hour that you're in front of a class, whether it's virtual or in person, there's another hour behind, for preparation, and then an extra hour for evaluation. So you're going to get paid for 1 hour, but the work, it's 3 times what you do in 1 hour, okay? So you need to be hardworking. If you think this is an easy profession, forget it. You need to be dedicated. You need to be committed. You need to love what you do so you don't feel like, oh, I have to go to work. You can enjoy it if you like it. And regarding some extracurricular activities that you also asked about, I think you mentioned that before, like many people and teachers recommend watching series or movies. Definitely. I think that helps a lot, especially if you're a beginner, maybe using subtitles. But if you're at an intermediate or more advanced level, I recommend forget about the subtitles and make an effort to understand. Now, if you're very curious about something you don't understand, then you can use closed captions or subtitles or whatever. Of course, music. I think music is going to help you in many ways, even if you cannot sing well like me. But if you enjoy singing and learning the lyrics of a song that you really like, I think that's going to help a lot. Also, go to museums. You will find a lot of tourists there. So you will force yourself to speak English, and to learn and share your knowledge. So those are some recommendations I give.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
I guess just talking about and taking the point that you said, which English is better, right? The American English or the British accent? Because I mean, being honest, the British accent, yeah, it sounds fancy, but again, it's another language, right? I mean, it's just another kind of language, and again, you just want to be able to communicate yourself. Okay, as you were saying, the accent, as in our case, I guess Mexican or Latino people tend to be quite strong, right? I mean, you can look at Sofia Vergara, right? Which is, I guess, the greatest example of
Or
right?
Sama Hayek, for example.
Yeah, that too. Okay, yeah, Annie.
Thank you so much. So, Irene, well, you already talked a little bit about this, but our next question is, in order to have an attractive profile for the job market, what are the skills that students need to acquire? Talking in terms of soft skills, in your case, in the classroom, as like for being a teacher, what are some recommendations or soft skills that you were already mentioning it, but can you talk about that a little bit more?
No, yes, of course. And I understand correctly, you're talking about future teachers or pre-service teachers who are going to graduate and try to get a job, right?
Yes.
I honestly think that this is, even though you're asking me to talk about the classroom and teachers, I think this is a very general question of a situation that is happening in any profession. I think students have to learn, and I know this is hard, but it's probably more the teacher's job to include situations in the classroom in which students can learn to become problem solvers. I was telling you the other day when we were talking that I recently visited 4 universities, one in Querétaro, one in Mérida, and 2 in Quintana Roo, because we're working on an English project to help students connect what they learn at the university, what they learn at school, and what companies, private companies need from them, okay? And of course, the key is soft skills. That's what they need. And for example, talking about tourism, and English is part of tourism, they learn a lot at school, they learn everything by the book, but then when they are at the front desk and there is a problem with a client, they don't know what to do because they were not taught at school, about a specific situation that a client has, a problem with a room or something like that. So you need to be creative. Students need to learn how to solve problems, or even if you cannot solve it yourself, you have to ask someone and find a solution. I mean, forget about saying, no, I don't know, I can't. Okay, the answer should be, let me see what I can do. Let me see how I can help you. Let me talk to my supervisor. I don't know, give options. And that's the beginning of being a problem solver, okay? Another one is, working in teams, okay? Being a team player. Accept others' opinions and points of view to develop critical thinking. If you think you're the only one who's right, if you believe that what you're doing is the only correct way, you're gonna have a lot of problems, once you start working. You have to learn to be respectful of others' opinions, listen to them, be a good listener, and be open. Be open to changing your mind and changing your point of view. Also be open to feedback. I've heard a lot about, and I don't want to say millennials because everybody criticizes millennials. And the truth is that they're really nice. They're fun to be with, and they're very smart. But one of the things, a constant thing I hear is that they don't like feedback. I mean, if they don't like the feedback they receive, they quit. And let's prove that's not true. Okay, if you're open to feedback, then you will prove all these people who make these comments about millennials wrong. Okay, because I'm sure that we should not separate people or put tags on people. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're my age, younger, older, whatever. We should always be open to feedback. And a very important thing, and I think that should be included in every single field, care about the environment. I mean, regardless of what you do, I think that if you start a new job with a sense of social responsibility and care for the environment, I think that's a plus. That's going to be a plus wherever you go.
Yes, definitely. But we will also like to listen to Anna. In your case, when advising a student, when working at the admissions department or the students advising department, what are some skills or soft skills that people working in that position should have?
So I know that the education department at Albertus looks for definitely flexibility, right? If you are thinking that, hey, you know what, these are the expectations and they're fixed and they're set, being flexible prepares you for the uncertain. And sometimes there are opportunities to make an educational plan out of an experience that is happening, right? So that flexibility, being creativity in creating the lesson plans, creativity in delivering the information is definitely celebrated, and it's a plus. And organization, right? Being able to plan in advance. And Irene mentioned, you have that preparation that hour before, you have that preparation afterwards, the follow-up. And as well, the students will be requiring the accountability of the progress, being able to deliver that to them in a timely manner. So those are some pointers. And I mean, gosh, Irene shared so much because God, she has so much experience. But what I'm sharing is just briefly from what I hear from my education department.
Yes, thank you so much. I was going to mention that in our case as advisors, I think we work in both sides, right? We're like teachers because we offer also like conversation clubs, writing clubs, but we also advise students like Anna. So I feel like it's a lot of work, but also sometimes we have to be like a psychologist because we need to advise the student because he doesn't know what to do, where to go, what to study. So we need to talk to them and help them find the way and what they really want to do so they can find the school that it's like their ideal school. And then also when we have those clubs, those conversation clubs or writing workshops, as Irene mentioned, you have to prepare it, and then you have to give the class, and then you have to evaluate, and it's a lot of work. So yes, I can understand both of you totally. George.
Yes, so you have to be prepared, right? And since we are talking about education and all this, are there any certifications recommended? Anna, from your perspective, what opportunities does institutions offer to international students?
So first of all international students are going to be participating, especially if you're in the education field. You must have a practicum. So you will be going to classrooms, you will be putting to work what you are learning about education and applying it under the supervision of your professor. So that is something that is required for graduation. After graduation, international students are able to apply for OPT, which allows you to put into practice what you learned at school as a professional, right? One of the things that George also mentioned is certifications. Certifications are also good. And with any field, and education definitely is not something that should be remissed. The continuation of knowledge, the continuation of skills gives everyone an edge, gives you the upper hand. So in the field that you're studying, look for what certifications are available. For instance, we have at Albertus Magnus College, we have early childhood teaching certification. We also have additional certification for those in middle school. There are schools that offer special ed certifications. So do your research, look what will give you an advantage. And definitely, as you're looking for that master's degree in education, or as you're looking for, maybe you already have your master's degree and you're looking for that additional certification to have you become more competitive, ask the university.
Okay, thank you very much, Anna. And Irene, regarding and from your perspective, you mentioned that you took a diploma in teaching for higher education. Can you elaborate more a little bit on this and how this added to your professional profile?
Yes, thank you, Jorge. Well, the thing is, I graduated university in 1993. I'm sure many of you hadn't even been born, but that was a long time ago. And at that time, I was working in English institute that used the audiolingual method to teach English. And if you don't know what the audiolingual method is, I suggest you Google it, because it's going to take me forever to talk about it. But so many years later, I'm talking about probably 20 years later, I decided I was looking for some updates, and everything, and I found that UNAM offers this diploma course called Diploma en Docencia Universitaria. So it specializes or it focuses on, for example, teaching methods and approaches and curriculum design. But especially when I talk about teaching methods and approaches, I was telling you that, using audiolingual method. But because this is higher education and it's about teaching at the university, it's open, it's in general. It's not about English teaching, it's teaching in general. So you find a lot of approaches that are new, that are very interesting, different. You can also learn about strategies for learning strategies, learning factors that affect learning, how to adapt materials to the class, lesson planning, which is very important. And that's basically what I can recommend from my experience. And of course, you always have the University of Cambridge with all the different certifications for English teachers, but they're expensive. So if you have a way to go for that, the suggestion is, yes, take them. Really good.
Yeah, I guess it all might depend on the path that you would like to follow, right? And how do you want to impact your students, your audience, your whatever, I mean, yeah, the field where you are going to develop yourself, right?
That's correct.
Okay, Annie.
Thank you very much. Continuing with the questions, I would like to ask, what are some of the opportunities students have in terms of internships or practical training? And in this case, Anna, with your experience with students, what are some trends you have seen they choose for practical training or internship?
So, no, this is a great question and very important, especially for those seeking to pursue a degree in higher education. You can, at least I know that most universities, you will not be able to graduate unless you have done student teaching or actual practical training within a classroom setting. This is a requirement for you to graduate. And your school will be this will be your best friend in finding that opportunity to have that practical training, that student teaching opportunity. So you will either be able to do it within your university when you're partnering with your professors, or your school will help you find a secondary school, an elementary school, or whatever institution or program you're seeking to teach. They will help you find where to apply this. But this is mandatory. You will not be able to graduate without having this practical training. And then, of course, there are internships opportunities. And as an international student, there's the option to apply for CPT. But the most important thing is that practical training. You need to speak with your education department. And then, of course, be mindful to speak with your PDSO about making that happen.
Yeah, exactly. I would say it's very important to practice the skills that you acquire through, through the classes and the university, not to wait till you finish your degree and then start working, right? And Irene, we would like to know if there are any professional opportunities with Relo. Can students maybe go for, maybe 2 months, maybe 6 months, or for an internship?
Okay, that's a very good question. If you talk about teachers, yes, we do have some exchanges, not many, to be very honest. I mean, we don't have like the capacity to send hundreds of teachers, okay, to the United States, for example. There are some, but usually they are offered to teachers who have taken other programs with us, okay? They are competed in many cases. And one of the programs that many teachers before being eligible for these exchanges is the OPEN program. The OPEN stands for Online Professional English Network. I don't know if you've heard about MOOCs. MOOCs are massive open online courses. So these are online courses for English teachers, students, and even if you're not an English teacher, but if you have a different profession, but you require English, these are free MOOCs, and they are hosted on Canvas network platform. And some of the titles, some of the courses you can take are, for example, English for Media Literacy, English for Business and Entrepreneurship, Professional Development for Teacher Trainers, TESOL Methodology, Teaching English to Young Learners, Integrating Critical Thinking into the Integration of Culture in an EFL setting. Okay? And if you participate and complete at least with a 70% passing rate or higher, you're eligible to receive a digital badge, which is like a certificate, okay, from the U.S. Department of. And once you take one of these programs with us, then you become eligible. Whenever opportunity for an exchange to the U.S., we choose people, from some of these programs. Okay, I will share the link in a few minutes with you. But I would also like this opportunity to talk about other opportunities that are not exchanges. But for example, we have the AmericanEnglish.state.gov website. And this is a resource center for teaching and learning about American English and American culture. And of course, it's for free. It has free resources, and these resources are very interesting. There's no catch. They're for free, okay? And we have, apart from resources, webinars, there are distance learning programs and teacher training workshops. We also have the American English for Educators Facebook page, and this one provides language educators, with relevant TESOL-related information, and also professional development opportunities here. So in case there's something important, you will see it there. And also practical classroom materials, okay? So if you have a chance, and I know that many people are not using Facebook anymore, but I think Facebook is still good for other things, please look for American English for Educators, and you'll find a lot of free resources there.
Yes, you have resources for absolutely everything. I've seen it. Yes.
Yes.
Really good resources. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
George?
Okay, yeah, and besides being a teacher, what are other job opportunities, trends, and markets for education from your perspective, and maybe even from your current role at your institutions? I will start with Anna.
Excellent. So in my experience, some of those who have completed their education degree, of course, there is such a need for teachers. This is a big job market. So those pursuing education at least I know that at Albertus Magnus College continue their education as teachers, or continue their profession as teachers. However, some also have become editors, have provided consultation for books and textbooks. Others have, the skills in education cross-trained so beautifully for other departments. For instance, you'd be surprised. We have people who studied education and are doing wonderful things in education and in marketing and in business, because those skills that they develop for the classroom setting allow people to work together, build teams, and be able to complete projects successfully. So these are just some few examples. A degree in education really prepares you for so many skills, so many jobs. It's not a bad career to explore.
Thank you very much, Anna. Irene.
Well, I am the perfect example. I studied to be an English teacher, and of course I was an English teacher for many years, but right now I work for the U.S. Embassy in Mexico in the Regional English Language Office. So my job is mainly administrative, but I have to oversee English programs. So of course, my experience as a teacher helped me get this job. And so there are many opportunities to work for the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City. Even if you, let's say, are an English teacher, but because the U.S. Embassy has a lot of positions that require English, you can probably apply for other administrative positions and get the job. So check the website, because there are job opportunities there. Also, as Anna mentioned, I think that there's a lot of opportunity to do research in education. There's a lot there to still do and try out and find and talk about. And we have the Forum magazine, and we're constantly looking for people who can write articles about education and share them there. So of course you won't get paid for this, but it's an optional thing. And who knows, maybe if somebody reads your article, they can call you from a publisher or something like that, And something that I would like to share with you is recently we were talking to a very big school in Hermosillo, Sonora, and they were telling us that they were having some problems hiring teachers for their in-person classes. Because of the pandemic, a lot of their English teachers started looking for their own private lessons, and now they're so busy and making good money, out of that they don't want to go back to in-person classes because now they have a lot to do with their own lessons. So starting your own business, your online classes is an option, and that way you can also start your own company and specialize. I have a friend who specializes only in the tourism industry, and he teaches classes, he visits hotels, he sells the courses, and he has several teachers, teaching there. So there are many options. I mean, I don't want you to think that, if you study to be an English teacher, your destiny is to be a fifth grade teacher only. It's like there's so many options. And also, even as an English teacher, you can specialize on something and then become very important in that area. I don't know, maybe even, do conversation clubs. There's so many things you can do as an English teacher. So just give it a try, and you'll find it very rewarding.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you so much.
As you mentioned, education is everything, and maybe you can even become an education advisor eventually, right?
Right.
Just to add one more thing.
Yes.
But jumping out of what Irene mentioned, ultimately, teachers are trained to be leaders. So whatever you do in education, you will be continuing to be an educator. It's just in a different sphere. And I've seen amazing people who were teachers at one point, running organizations, doing amazing things within the administrative field. So teachers are leaders. You are trained to be a leader, and you could transfer that anywhere.
Yes.
Thank you.
And
I agree.
that is part of our last question. We would like you to give our audience one last advice, like the best advice you can give education candidates. Irene, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Well, I like what Nelson Mandela said about education. He said that education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. And I completely agree with him. What will give a community, a city, a state, a country, more opportunities is education, definitely. And my suggestion or recommendation, especially if you're an English teacher and taking advantage of Education USA here, look for opportunities to study abroad. I'm not saying that you're not going to be a good teacher if you stay in Mexico, but definitely the experience, I believe that teaching a language is teaching a culture. And it's very hard to teach a culture when you haven't lived there. So there are many opportunities. Ambassador, Ken Salazar in Mexico keeps saying, I cannot believe that there are so many international students from China and so few from Mexico. We're neighbors, so he wants more Mexicans to go to the States to look for opportunities. So my recommendation is please go see an advisor from Education USA and talk about opportunities. There are many things that you probably don't know about. Talk about Fulbright opportunities also. That's excellent. And I'm not saying there aren't opportunities in Mexico. There are, and there are probably others, there are many agreements between Mexico and the United States and Britain and some public schools. But I also want to say that if you want to be an English teacher, you can go to school and learn many things. You can learn about linguistics, about how to teach grammar, how to plan a class, but nobody will teach you the passion, to feel the passion. That's something that you need to have inside of you before you dare to become a teacher. If you feel that passion, that's something, that, I don't know, it's something that you just feel inside. Go for it and enjoy it. And something that Anna said, and that was something I wanted to also recap to close, is the more you learn, the more you will know. And this knowledge will always be yours. You can lose everything, or people can take many things away from you, except your knowledge. that is something you will always keep. So continue studying. Study a master's degree, study a PhD, whatever you want, but keep studying. And that's why at my age, I am still studying a master's degree, because I want to tell everybody that you have to keep studying, you have to keep going, you have to prepare yourself every day. So that's my recommendation.
Thank you so much. Anna, do you have one last advice?
Stick with it. Don't give up, right? Everyone has challenges. And, you know, one of my sisters is a teacher, and my parents constantly were telling her, well, why education? Very much like what Irene said, you know, teachers are gifted and talented individuals, and peers, families, loved ones can say, oh, you could do so much better. But the thing is, education is so much better. We need smart, talented teachers. What Irene mentioned about passion, we need passionate teachers who are going to empower the world. You're working with the lives of the future. That's a big responsibility. Stick with it. Don't give up, and make a difference by being an educator.
Thank you so, so much. Both of you, we really appreciate you gave us so much information, many advice, really good advices. And George, anything you want to say to our
No. I mean, it was wonderful to hear you, because in a way it reinforces what we sometimes want to communicate to our advisees. And yes, and to the attendees on this webinar. So thank you very much, Irene and Anna, for your advice. And I don't know if at this moment, Edith, do we have any questions from the audience?
Yeah, we have just a couple of questions, and I think they are very related with the last things that you were mentioning. So, well, let me read the first of them. It says, I want to become an English teacher, and some friends have told me that it's better to study for that in the US or in another English-speaking country. What's your opinion on that?
I'm going to defer to Irene before I share some, because Irene has lived this experience.
Well, yes, I studied to become an English teacher in Mexico, and fortunately, I have taken many courses and attended many conferences. There's an international conference every year called TESOL, Teachers of English to Students of Other Languages. That is usually, it happens in the United States. For example, next year it's going to be in Portland, Oregon. And if you have the ability to, or the possibility to attend these conferences, sometimes you just need a sponsor, and you learn a lot. You learn from the best, because it's a conference with international colleagues that share. It's about sharing. So I don't feel that it was a disadvantage for me to have studied to become an English teacher in Mexico. I actually think it was very good, because after that, I wanted to fill the gaps, let's put it like that. And I looked for opportunities elsewhere, and I found them in the States several times. So I don't think it's bad. I think it's always good if you study to be an English teacher in Mexico. But of course, if you have the opportunity to go to, the place where they speak the language, where you're going to learn the culture, as I said before, teaching a language is teaching a culture. So the best way is to live the experience. So if you have the opportunity, go for it.
And to second what Irene said, I know many professionals who studied in their home country. However, they attained their master's abroad, they studied abroad, or attained a certification abroad. I think that there is an important component about experiencing the culture, experiencing the language, and having a full immersion. It does not have to be the full degree, although if it is, fabulous. However, I know some individuals who are very proficient, are very good at what they do, and they only studied abroad for a few months. So to second what Irene said, if you have the opportunity, if you can do it and studied abroad a bachelor's or master's degree or certification, do it. Because when you live, eat, breathe it, it refines your linguistic skills.
Yeah, if I may add something, I think that when you had the opportunity to study English, in a bilingual school, when you were into elementary school, middle school and everything, and then you get to the university and you already speak English, then studying to become a teacher will be easier and you will have a better level than someone who studies in a public school in Mexico without English and then wants to become a teacher once they get to the university. I have seen in my experience that is a lot harder. And not only because they're dealing with the subjects at the university, but they have to also be studying and learning English at the same time. Whereas if you are immersed in the culture, in the whole situation, you will wake up in English, have breakfast in English, watch TV in English, study in English, do everything in English. So it will force you and it will give you a better level of English, definitely.
Thank you. Very interesting what you're mentioning. Well, yeah, it's easier if you want to become an English teacher and you already speak English. It's gonna be easier for you to prepare in that and also to take some other opportunities to complete or to continue with your studies in another country. The other question that I have in here, it says, sometimes after some years of teaching, some teachers lose motivation. What will be your advice to avoid losing this motivation or to recover it in case they already lose it?
Okay, if I may take this one. Okay, I will say, and I have never said this to anybody, but I will say it here. I felt like that at one point when I was teaching middle school. It was a very strict school, so students I couldn't organize them into teams or, have them speaking because, they would say like, hey, what's wrong? I mean, they have to be quiet and in silence and everything. So on one hand, it was the method or the ideas, at the school that I didn't agree with. So I felt very demotivated. But at the same time, the students at that age, they have so much energy. They need to move, they need to stand up, they need to do things. Otherwise, they don't care. And I was so frustrated because of the combination of the two factors that I had to make a decision and I decided to quit. And I felt really bad about that, because I was like, I should be looking for a way, but I wasn't enjoying the fact that my students have to be sitting down, be quiet and only read and write. It's like, this is not a place for me where I can really explore my teaching, And so I decided to start working at UNAM, at the university. And it was just the opposite, It's like, do whatever you want in class, your lesson plans, you can decide what to teach and everything, as long as, of course, there's a course book, and there were some topics we had to cover. As long as you cover those topics and your students are ready for the exam, you can do whatever you want in your classes. And I was so happy and I was so creative. And sometimes we would take class outside and sometimes they were standing up and working in teams and everything. So I think it also has to do with finding the right place or the right level where you feel comfortable. And I think that's an advice I would give you. Also, I mean, I love little kids, but I cannot teach kindergarten. I mean, for me, it's like taking them to the restroom, and wiping their noses. No. It's hard. Okay, I have to confess. So I don't teach there. I find my niche, my place where I can feel happy teaching. So maybe that's what's happening to you. You should give it a try.
And if I may add, and of course, this is very valuable insight that Irene just shared, because she's lived this in the flesh. I'm not an educator. However, what I do know is that sometimes when you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, it becomes stagnant. And it's important to stay current, right? Information changes, styles change. So this is part of the value of certifications, of continuing your studies. I also encourage having a group of peers that you could bounce ideas from and see what other innovations, what other creativity you can do. And be honest also as to what's that dull, what's the lack of motivation as that you're encountering. So to sum it up, I do encourage continuing your education, checking out what other things you can learn so that you could keep your education current, up to date, because what we learned 10, 20 years ago is no longer valid today. And also having a group of peers that you could bounce ideas from.
Excellent recommendation, and I completely agree. Even though you say you're not an educator, that's an excellent idea. And yeah, find your place in teaching. I mean, if you love teaching, just find the right audience, find the right place, and enjoy it. Do not suffer it.
Right. Life is too short to have drama.
Yes, do agree. And well, that was my last question. Thank you very much for your time and for all of the advice that you have shared with us. And well, I leave the floor to Anna and George again.
Okay, thank you very much, Edith. So 2 points: don't suffer and keep current and updated, right? So thank you very much, Irene and Anna, for this wonderful, evening. Here we actually learned a lot as well. And remember, guys, our attendees, that next week we will have another event on how to prepare a strong graduate school application, because we know several of you are aiming to pursue higher education in the States. So this webinar is for you, so don't miss it. It will be at the same time as 5 p.m. Mexico City time. So we have put up the promotional materials on our social media. And thank you very much, Irene and Anna, for your time, for your willingness to collaborating with us. Yeah, we don't have words to express our thankfulness. So thank you very much.
No, thank you for inviting us. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Anna, for meeting you. It was wonderful.
Likewise, Irene, I am a fan. And thank you for being in education.